now we are completely finished. I've still got a part left to do, but I am going to show you how we are going to start painting. So I have gone round mine in a black fine liner, so it's easier to see because it's quite hard to see where each object is when it's on the background of the collage newspaper. So I have got a plate here with a couple of colours on it. I am making sure that I'm either using complementary colours or harmonious colours, which I'm going to talk through as I paint. I have a paintbrush here and I have a water pot, and I do also have a paper towel to wipe my brush off to make sure that the paint isn't too runny. So what I'm going to start off with is a green and a red. As you can see, I've already done the numbers on my clock. Do not worry, you can paint over these, and then when the paint is completely dry, you can then put the numbers back in with your fine liner. That's totally fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the red, and I'm only taking very, very small amounts, and I'm going to start painting. Make sure you paint in the same direction, because otherwise it doesn't create a smooth consistency. You also not need to put loads of paint on. So as you can see at the moment, my paint isn't opaque. You can still see the newspaper through the paint, and that's totally fine, because what we are going to start doing is using layering to build up the paint to make it opaque. So I'm just going to continue with some of this here, just to show you. And then I'm going to move on to doing the green, which is the complementary colour of red, as is opposite the colour wheel. So I'm just going to wash my paintbrush up there, make sure all the colour is out. And then I'm going to go in with a green. Bearing in mind, guys, you don't have to necessarily do the green that's straight out of the bottle like I've got here. I'm going to add a little bit of black into it. Only a very, very small amount of black, to the consistency of green, because I don't want it to be a really, really dark green, but I want it to be slightly darker than the one out of the bottle, because I think that green's going to work really nicely with that red. So really have a think about it. Just because it says it's green and red opposite on the colour wheel, you can use different tones of that colour. That's totally fine. And then I'm going to start going round. If you come to a part like here, where it's overlapped with the bowl, I'm going to miss that part out, because that's the bowl. So where it overlaps, just miss that part out. And you may need to use smaller paintbrushes to get into the smaller areas. Make sure to try and stay in the lines. If you go over, do not worry, because we'll go back over with the fine liner at the end just to neaten it up. So as you can see there, I'm doing it in very, very thin layers. Then I can go over the top to make it opaque. So I'm just going to leave that one there for now. So my next part is either my bowl or my toothbrush. I can do any of these ones here. What I don't want to use is red and green again, because we want to use a different colour. I need to make sure, in the style of Michael Craig Martin, he uses very vibrant, luminous, bright colours. So that's what we're going to try and keep it to. We're not going to use any dull colours or any blacks or anything like that. So with my bowl here, I think I'm going to use yellow and purple. So if there's some of these, as you can see, that has more than two, so say this kettle here has more than two areas, I can do different tones of that colour, or I can either use harmonious colours, which is basically the different tones on the colour wheel. So if I use purple, as I've just said, let's go in with the kettle actually instead of the bowl. So I'm going to use the purple that's straight from the pot, because I quite like the colour. Again, going in the same direction, holding your paintbrush near the top so you have full control. We don't need to hold it right down the tip like you would do with a pencil. I'd hold it somewhere in the middle there, and make sure that you are going in the same direction, not like I just did then. There we go. So now I have this bit of the kettle and I have the handle. So I'm going to do the handle yellow. Bearing in mind, in the visualizer it does look like it's blue, but it actually is purple on the piece of paper. So now I'm going to go in with my yellow, and the handle is going to be yellow. So now you're probably thinking, I've used my 2 complementary colours now, and there's still the top bit and this bit to go. So what am I going to do? So you can either use harmonious colours, which is the colours next to it on the colour wheel. So bearing in mind it could be yellow, so you could use orange or a light green. Or if it's purple, you could use dark blue or a lighter blue. Totally up to you. I think the blue is going to go really well with it, because this is purple, bearing in mind, but it really doesn't look like it's purple. So I'm going to use a bright blue colour, and I'm going to go into this part here. I just went over a little bit, don't worry, because we'll go back over it again with the fine liner when it's completely dry. And always make sure, as you can see there, I haven't washed off my paintbrush enough, so it's still got quite a lot of water in the paintbrush, and therefore we're not getting a nice consistency of the acrylic paint. And it will be really, really hard to get it opaque. So I'm going to do that one there, and then I'm going to go in and do the blue up here too. So they work quite well together, because they're complementary colours, so they complement each other, or they're harmonious colours which sit next to each other on the colour wheel anyway. So I want you to really think about what colours you are going to use with what object sits next to it. If it overlaps in somewhere, you can either do it so the pen overlaps with the kettle and the toothbrush and the spoon. You can keep the pen the same colour if you want, or where it overlaps, it could be the colour of the toothpaste tube or the spoon. Totally up to you. But make sure that you are using little paint to go over the newspaper first. You may be able to see it through, and that is totally fine. At the end, we'll go back over when it's dry and create a layering effect. So now you guys can get on and you can start painting your piece.